Richie had a few glasses of wine and he said, "Meet me in the restroom."
The most intimate writing environment, by the way.
I was going to leave that part out, but so actually we did. Well, Frank got up. I thought, well, I'm getting up too then. So we went to the restroom and I said, "Hey," I said, "Love Lives On." I said, "I got something going in my head." And he goes, "Well, put it on your phone and we'll just."
We put it on the phone after the show that night.
Yeah. So that's where
it really was a funny moment, as I'm sitting at the table taking it all in, and what they said is true. These two guys literally, she said "Love Lives On," and they both looked each other way. And you knew, it's like, that's it. I mean, they saw it. And Richie, he already had part of the song written before the gala even finished, had it in his head. And I think we were in the car, Frank and we get this text. And it's Richie singing part of it into his phone. He already had this idea going in his head, and it was a pretty good chunk of the chorus. It was just, that night was so magical, because I don't know that any of us really grasped the grandiosity or grandeur of what that whole thing was. We've done taps in Colorado, but all of a sudden we're in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, and 4-star generals are walking in the door, and you know, bigwigs of the Joint Chiefs of Staff are at this event, and I'm going, and the room was packed. It was like 4 times the size of this room, and it's packed, and they're up there doing the taps thing, and we're like, wow, this is bigger than I think we all thought. And she says "Love Lives On," and it was like this moment. So, you know, Kismet is an amazing thing. I think we all, you know, believe that things happen for a reason. And whatever pulled us all in that room at that day, and having Richie there, just a brilliant writer, and Frank, it was just meant to be. But what a powerful moment when that song hit, and we knew that this was it.
When I called Bonnie and I said, "Bonnie," I think I called Katie and asked for a transcript of your speech. And so they sent it to me and I read it. And I said, "I got to talk to Bonnie." So I called her up and I said, "Bonnie, you know, we're going to make this record and we're going to have these survivors come in and tell their stories. You know, you founded this organization. You need to tell your story as well." And she was so afraid that it was going to be too personal. I remember after we wrote the first verse and I called her up and I sang her the verse over the phone, she kind of got teared up. She says, "Oh, it's too personal. It's too personal. It's got to be about everybody." I said, "Don't worry. The rest of the song will be about everybody, but we need to tell your story too."
I'll say this too. We knew that this was going to be the catalyst for the whole thing. We knew that this was going to be the song that launched, not only launched it up, but became bigger than everybody.
You're not out front.
Oh, is this up front?
Oh yeah.
We knew that this song was going to be bigger than all of us, and so we wanted this song to be a musical event. And Frank and I immediately started saying we should try to see how much of the music community would come in and be a part of this, all starting with the tracking band. We wanted to bring in an all-star tracking band. And so Frank and I and Richie, when we wrote the track, we felt like it was reminiscent of Africa, of the song by Toto. It had that pulse and that little rhythmic thing. So I'm like, hey, you know, let's call David Hungate from Toto and see if he'd come out of retirement and play on the track, you know, not knowing, you know, because David retired recently. Called him up on the phone, and David's like, "When and where? When and where?" I said, "We'll do a union contract." He said, "Did I say anything about money?" When and where? Everybody that was affiliated with this project said when and where. They didn't even question it. I get chills just thinking about the generosity of this town. But right out of the gate, when and where. He said, "Why don't you call the other members of Toto and see if they'll come out of retirement and play on the record?" Well, that was a little bit of a pipe dream. But I tried it, and some of them were available, and some of them weren't. So we just started calling all-star players, including Vinnie Colaiuta from LA, who's one of the top. We got both of them, Paul Lime here and Vinnie Colaiuta, both played on this incredible record. And Vinnie, yeah, Paul, brilliant playing, and just also beautiful. Him and Jeannie are just beautiful people. But Vinnie was in LA doing concerts, and Vinnie said, "I'll be there. When is it?" I said, "It's in 2 weeks." He said, "Give me a flight. I'll be there. I'll fly overnight." He came in and was in the studio longer than he was, you know, practically in town. You know, he was here for 6 hours just for the recording of the song for one track. Flew back home and did want to get paid. I mean, this is the way these players were. So we had an all-star band. David Pack from Ambrosia, the great band Ambrosia, flew in from LA to play guitar on it. Dan Huff, who's one of the top producers in the business, out of retirement from playing. He's producing records, but he really hasn't played on it. He came up to me, he said, I'll be there. I said, really? He said, yeah, I'll be there. Tell me when. And he showed up on the tracking date. He was nervous. He said, I'm so nervous. I'm like, you played on every record known to man. He said, I haven't tracked in probably 10, 15 years because I don't do it anymore. He wanted to be a part of it. So that whole studio moment with all these amazing players in the room, that set the pace for this whole thing. And you could feel the love and everybody just giving of themselves and the ideas flowing and that rhythm track that came out. It was so inspiring. And then the singers started coming out of the woodwork. You know, Richie and the guys, the Lone Star guys just sang it so beautiful. Keach and Dean and all the guys, they came in and sang. And then Vince Gill, we asked Vince said, I'd love to be a part of it. Vince came out, he sang it at his house. And then the background singer, it was so incredible and it just really set the pace. Chip Davis is out here. Chip Davis, one of the great singers, background singers, he's here, he sang on this record. And also I want to tell something about Richie. Richie sang the demo so we could get a work tape and kind of hear this thing. And he was so inspired at that moment that the demo is what made the record. His vocal was so incredible that the demo vocal is the record. And it's just a stellar vocal performance. So
Thank you.
Are y'all ready to hear some more music?
Yeah.
Some stories? Yes. All right. Let's go.